I'm also kind of wondering if they released the Black Panther trailer when they did to kind of hide the news about whatever the heck is going on with Blade, because, Marvel and DC both have this tendency of look over here, while this house is on fire over here. And we're obviously talking about the director of Blade, quote unquote, leaving the project when the project was supposed to start filming in November. I don't believe for a second that he just left or quit. I 100% believe that he was fired because, according to a lot of reports from the major trades we've been hearing, the script for Blade that's been worked on for years was roughly about 90 pages, which roughly translates to about 90 minutes of a movie, with only 2 lukewarm action sequences in the entire thing. I'm going, you had all this time, and that's what you come up with? And supposedly the lead actor, Mahershala Ali, is just incredibly frustrated with this whole process. And I don't blame him for a second. If you're coming onto a Marvel movie, before a certain bald maniac took over, you expect a certain standard. You don't expect like the best movie in the world, but you expect strict scheduling to be maintained. Like Marvel, for better for worse, and people accuse them of being cookie cutter. The cookie cutter process works when you stick to a regiment and you stick to it. Kevin Feige, this is another example of this. We've had many over the past few years, but Kevin Feige is getting stretched too thin. Kevin Feige of a few years ago would have caught this a long time ago. Now, granted, it's a good thing he caught this now instead of 3 months into filming, but this is not a good look for them. I'm trying to think of the last time we've had this much like turbulence with something before it even comes to film when it comes to Marvel stuff. Inhumans, maybe? And that wasn't even in a movie. That got turned into a TV show because they just couldn't figure it out.
I mean, there was some stuff there was stuff with Multiverse of Madness a little bit going into it.
Yeah, but that was
not this bad though.
Yeah, Multiverse of Madness stuff was more COVID than anything else, of just like rescheduling, but also like Scott Derrickson wanting to go more horror stuff. But that was early on in the script writing phase, not a few weeks before they're set to film.
Also true.
But yeah, Kevin Feige is stretched too thin here and needs help. He's got his fingers in so many different pies, and thus contaminating the pies that he has his fingers in. Like, it's
gross.
There's too many cooks in the kitchen, and Josh knows more hands does not make the process better. More hands can actually hinder the process a lot of times in the kitchen. Just get out of my way. You're blocking my path type of situation. I want Blade to be good. I want us to explore the darker sides of the MCU as we're getting Werewolf by Night this weekend. Praise the maker.
Oh, is that this weekend?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, baby, let's go.
But like,
I'm so excited for that.
Josh and I both love Blade, and we want this to work. We want Blade. We want Ghost Rider. And I'm very concerned now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm very curious as far as like, okay, so what's the problem? Are we not wanting to go horror enough? Are we not wanting to kind of go into the real implications of saying that vampires are a thing in the MCU? Like, what's the issue? What's the real issue here? Because if Mustafa Ali is frustrated, it's probably not him. Mahershala? Oops.
Mustafa Ali is somebody else. He's more flippy.
Oh, wow. Yeah, wow. Okay. That's a poll that I've completely forgot about him. Wow. Although that is a guy that I could totally see being in a Blade movie. But like it says a lot, I think. And the director, quote unquote, dropping out, like you said, I think he got fired or let go 2 months before filming. To me, especially if the script is only 90 pages long, and it's interesting that it's not like they weren't going to go film until they had a longer script. They were like, hey, our script is 90 pages long. Let's go film it anyway. Like, dog, you can't do that. You just can't do that, especially not in Marvel film, especially not with a property that everyone's expecting so much from, like Blade. So to me, I'm not going to be worried because at least they caught it now. At least they caught it now, and instead of when it was getting filmed and all that. But like, I'd be lying if I said it didn't make me. It didn't make me still like nervous.
Yeah, this does make me really really nervous. But more than anything, like this should help. Hopefully, like I don't think this will happen, but Kevin Feige needs a committee, not a full big committee, but like 3 or 4 guys that he fully trusts. Like, well, if he was still working with Marvel in the future, a James Gunn, a Jon Favreau, the Russo brothers, and Ryan Coogler. It's just some names that he's worked with that he trusts to be like, hey, I can't handle all this stuff. Can you guys delegate? Can you, Ryan Coogler, can you be in charge and help this show, and this show? Jon Favreau, can you help this movie, and this movie? Just make sure they're on track and whatnot. Russo brothers, can you help this and this? And then you all report to me, and I'll oversee the bigger stuff like Avengers and whatnot. Because I'm starting to get worried about Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars, but that's always the ones that Feige will always have the most involvement in. So, for better for worse, Age of Ultron. He just needs help. I think one of the big issues with Phase 4, among many others, is I think Kevin Feige is being pulled in too many different directions, and he's expecting people to follow him in those different directions. He's like, we want to do this, we want to do this, we want to do this. I'm like, that's cool, Kev. Streamline it for people, because it's getting hard to keep track of what's important and what's not in this universe right now. And just, I think he's a little overwhelmed, and I completely get it because he's in charge of everything, not just the films anymore. TV, I believe he's also in charge of the comics. Like, anything Marvel has to go through Feige. Like, delegate some stuff, but also, this is really not a good look for them. Like,
No,
by
not
and
at
large,
all.
we haven't heard of them replacing a director since Doctor Strange, I think. But even before that, with like Patty Jenkins with Thor 2, with Thor the Dark World, and we know how that ended up. But by and large, when they get a director, like when they get actors, they tend to stick in that position until something bad happens. So the fact that this happened now, I want Blade to be good, but I had no reason to doubt it. Now I have some definite doubts for sure in this.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I just, yeah, because the amount of hype going into Blade, you really can't. You have to do this right, and I get that there's some pressure on that. And to Feige's credit, before the pandemic, all this TV stuff was not even something he had to worry about. So it's very interesting to see. I'm very curious is if there's a lot of stuff, obviously we're not being told, but a lot of stuff that he's having to deal with that is just from the Disney Plus side of stuff, because the movie, it's the TV shows that are convoluting everything, at least to me. But I think that kind of puts us pretty well into our next topic.